briefly back to quantitative easing. Essentially, it's just flooding the market with more money and also buying up loads of treasuries, safe treasuries, specifically those of the US and the UK, a couple of other countries, so that a lot of financial institutions, such as pension funds, which need safe assets, they're not available, and that sort of forces them to go out and find slightly more risky assets, like, as the idea was, somebody who wants to start a new business like Widget Co. That would then get financed, and that would make jobs happen, and that would make the real economy happy, etc. This does not actually happen.
Is this just? It's just. Yeah, I was gonna say this is just.
This was the theory. This was the theory. The thing that happened instead is
trickle down, right?
Yeah. It's a slightly more advanced form of trickle down, essentially, just with more.
It's like trickle down.
Honestly, having
Reaganism with extra steps.
Well, no, it literally is. It's like if you start with Reaganism, which is we give money to the rich and the rich will spend it, then people get wise to that. So we invent a new kind of rich called the entrepreneur, right? And they are the job creators. They're not just rich, they're creating jobs, they're doing a thing. So we give the entrepreneurs money and it'll trickle down. And it's the same idea. Yeah, like they will keep doing this. We just take the same concept, which is more money for the rich, and it won't fuck you, and they just try and repackage that every time. So watch out for this exciting trend in future, listener.
Exactly. So what happens instead of money trickling down into your awaiting mouth is that huge gobs of money just essentially hang around in the stock market, with corporate buybacks becoming a huge thing. Because debt is so cheap, corporations take on quite a lot of it, and then buy their own shares, which juices the share price, which makes everybody happy except the real economy, and then, of course, still fire a lot of workers. It also creates shit like Netflix and WeWork and a lot of stuff that Trash Future talks about. And essentially the biggest thing is it creates asset inflation, like houses, stock shares, everything just goes through the roof. And if you already owned those assets beforehand, or in the last 10 years, you would have become progressively a lot richer, because the money that's cycled through the central bank is essentially ends up in those places, and it doesn't end up in Widget Co. being created.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is really funny when we talk about the interest rates being really, really low. And we've talked about this on the podcast before, because although nominally the interest rate for the actual money is very low, but like you say, then or for some reason that money kind of has to go somewhere, right? It has to go down into a big money pit called assets.
Yes.
And oh no, actually inflation in terms of being able to live, very, very high. Good.
Well, I mean, inflation is getting started now a little bit, but one of the weirder side effects is, which according to like all the economic textbooks, which is why economics is a garbage science, is it's said that, well, if you print that much money and you put it into the real economy, you would get inflation. But essentially between 2010 and now, there was absolutely no inflation, no serious inflation to speak of. And because the central banks explicitly say, which is called forward guidance, they say, not only is there a big hose full of money that we will drain on the economy, but we will keep the hose on for a long time to come. So don't worry, you can make more bets in the economy.
You too can gargle mouthfuls of piss.
Yeah, exactly. So, in brief defense of all these central bank policies, this is the argument you'll hear if you listen to the other side, is the answer is, well, if we hadn't done all these things would have been worse. But then, but we don't know that because you didn't.
You can't prove a counterfactual.
Yes,
you
exactly.
Can't prove a counterfactual. Yeah. We can say, right, okay, here's a counterfactual for you. If we had not started podcasting as praxis, then the United Kingdom would have been nuked.
Yes.
Only.
Prove us
Do
wrong.
not fucking dare. That is such a horrible thing to say that we've robbed people of.